Hello, and thank you for joining us on this special update to Tampa residents about how HART is hard at work with several capital investments throughout the community. I'm Marcia Mejia, and I'm joined here with Mary Chevalier, Director of Grants Management and Planning, and Les Weekland, Capital Planning Manager for HART, both with HART. Thank you both for being here with us today. Public transportation certainly is a hot topic these days, sometimes controversial, but the fact is that more folks are indeed using HART, as we've seen from some drastically increasing bus ridership numbers. In fiscal year 2011, overall bus ridership was 13.7 million, an all-time high for HART and an increase of 12% over last year. This double-digit increase is phenomenal when so many transit agencies throughout the country are struggling with just maintaining their ridership because they've had to severely cut services. But as we said, HART is hard at work with plans to enhance public transportation service throughout the community. So let's get right to it. Les, you are the project manager for Metro Rapid North-South. That's a huge project coming to this community soon. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
HART is very excited about this upcoming project, which was funded by Hillsborough County. And the North-South project is a $31 million project budget in which we're taking a look at adding what we call BRT, Bus Rapid Transit, except that we're operating in what they commonly refer to as BRT Light. The difference being that we will actually operate the transit buses in mixed traffic on the normal roadways, where true BRT actually operates on dedicated lanes. The Metro Rapid North-South project is approximately a 17.5-mile corridor that's going to be serving the areas from downtown Tampa, from our Marion Transit Center main site, down through the core of downtown, over to Nebraska Avenue, taking Nebraska Avenue north to Fletcher Avenue, and then we'll go east on Fletcher Avenue, tying in with our University Area Transit Center, and then extend further east on out to the I-75 area, serving both Hidden River and Telecom Parks.
So this is going to be a speedy service for residents. What are the travel time savings on this?
Well, we're expecting to see a minimum of 15 to 20% travel time savings over that course of 17.5 miles. Depending, again, where you get on the bus. But we expect to see 15 to 20% improvements by placing the stops at larger intervals. We'll actually have the stops placed about every quarter to three-quarter of a mile along the corridor. We'll have approximately 58 stations out there, or basically 26 pair, plus a few additional ones that will actually be incorporated into Telecom Park and Hidden River. The other time savings that we'll also see with it is we are planning on incorporating transit signal priority. Transit signal priority, as you'll commonly hear it, is TSP. Will be incorporated along the corridor. We're currently under a pilot project and testing it. We'll be looking at using what is known as Global Positioning Satellite System is our network for it, so GPS. And that, what it does is actually, if the bus is running behind schedule, it actually picks up that difference, and it will actually then hold the signals for a longer green time, or actually give us a preempted green signal on the corridor that we're operating on. The other real benefit to that the City of Tampa, the City of Temple Terrace, and Hillsborough County are very excited about is the fact that it can also be used for fire rescue, which is very important. They also use it as TSP, except theirs is traffic signal preemption.
Okay.
So actually it'll create a much safer operating conditions when they are on life safety runs by changing the lights as necessary along the corridor to accommodate them.
Okay, and you mentioned stops. These aren't just regular bus stops. These are actual station stops with some of the travel time saving amenities that you mentioned, including the ticket vending machines.
Correct. Along the corridor, again, with the 58 stations we have them basically into three different sizes. Of course, small, medium, large, which is the normal thing that we have. But at the major stations where they intersect with some of our other very popular routes, like the Route 34 on Hillsborough, and several of the other routes, is that at those particular locations where we will have the full-size stations, those will be equipped with ticket vending machines so that patrons can actually pre-purchase their boarding passes. They'll help, again, reduce the amount of dwell time that we would have at a stop at any particular location. In addition to that, we are basically doing a typical design on the footprint for the stations, and each one of the station locations has the ability to be expanded into a full size if and when our ridership then generates enough to include the additional additions to it.
And are the Metro Rapid buses going to look different from the HART buses that operate on a local route?
They'll be the same basic concept of any transit bus, except these will be low-floor buses with a unique and specialized graphic on it. We have identified it in the green tones to be different from our normal buses to be readily identifiable. And the same thing at the stations, we're actually including what we call totems. It's basically a vertical structure that will protrude up through the station shelter itself that will have the Metro Rapid identification on it and other amenities that we can then adapt for the future.
So we've been talking about the Metro Rapid North-South, but there's also funding for some early planning of an east-west corridor, isn't that right?
That's correct. We recently awarded a contract to begin the project development and environmental for the east-west project, which is going to be complementary route to the north-south. And that's planned to operate from the City of Temple Terrace area down to Net Park, Office Park, across Hillsborough Avenue, where it'll join up with the north-south on Nebraska Avenue from Hillsborough down to MLK. Then it'll continue westbound into serving the West Shore and the Tampa International Airport area.
BRT or similar projects, have they been successful in other parts of the country or perhaps the world?
Oh, absolutely. BRT really took, I guess, its biggest leap in Cartiva. And since then, in the United States, there's a number of areas that have actually started their own BRT services. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Portland, Oregon, San Francisco, San Jose. There's a number of others, even Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
And before we move on to the next project, when should we expect Metro Rapid North-South to be operational for folks?
Well, we're currently in the final design phases right now, in which we'll be then letting the project in the early part of 2012 and starting construction, we hope, in mid-part of 2012. And we should be ready for operations then in March of 2013.
Okay, great. And there's a park and ride that's going to complement North-South, but we actually have two park and rides underway that we're going to open up, two new ones in the Fletcher Avenue I-75 area and in Brandon. Can you, and before we talk about those two new park and rides, a lot of folks may not know what a park and ride is. Just give us the 5 cents on what that is.
Okay. Basically, park and ride facilities, in which we have a number of approximately 17 park and rides out in our whole geographical area of Hillsborough County, are locations typically on the outbound outskirts of our service area that we provide suitable parking spaces that are well lit and built to CPTED, crime prevention through environmental design principles, in which people can park their vehicles and then board an express bus, or in this case, the new Metro Rapid North-South service, leave their vehicles behind, and then enjoy the ride going into the downtown core area or to any of the other focal points that they may have as destinations. It really is a lot of time savings for them. It certainly takes the aggravation out of driving, and we all know what that's like here in the Tampa Bay area.
And it's free.
And, well, the parking is free, and the nice thing about with the Metro Rapid service is the fare structure is built at the same rate as our local service. And if you buy an all-day pass, you can ride the Metro Rapid, or you can then transfer onto other local routes if need be. But there's also the time saving, especially with the Brandon Park and Ride. The people that commute from the Brandon area are typically heading into the core of the downtown area to MacDill Air Force Base. And with that, they can bypass all the additional tolls that are usually along across town. And also, again, time savings, gas savings. So it's a very economical way of basically getting to and from work.
Okay, so like I said, 2 new park and rides, one to complement the Metro Rapid North-South project near Fletcher Avenue in the I-75 area, and another one in Brandon. And why Brandon?
Well, Brandon, because it's basically that suburban setting in Hillsborough County. It's been apparent that a lot of people, especially that work at MacDill, seem to have migrated and set up their households in the Brandon area. Okay. It's a huge population area. And basically, we have a number of commuters that really enjoy the opportunities of using even our current express services. The other nice thing about the 2 park and rides that we're discussing here is these will be basically the first 2 what we'll call regional park and rides. We'll have well over 200 parking spaces per park and ride location. So we'll be able to accommodate the needs of the citizens of Hillsborough County in order to use the express services going into the downtown area.
So what's the timeline on these 2 new park and rides?
The projects for the 2 park and rides is also on the same basic schedule that we have for the Metro Rapid North-South. We want to open up the whole system as a tied together system. So we anticipate having both regional park and rides and the North-South Metro Rapid ready for operations March 2013.
Okay, that's good news. We've been talking about new projects. Now let's talk about some improvements underway at existing HART facilities. Mary, a major project is underway, or a major update project is underway at the Yukon Transfer Center. Tell me a little bit about that.
Our Yukon Transfer Center is in the Sulphur Springs community, and it basically serves 5 local routes. The routes connect at the transfer center, and passengers then can make an easy transfer between buses. What we're doing is it's an older transfer facility. It needs some major updating. As well, the school bus use part of that site then for some of their magnet schools. So right now there's some challenges with the mixing of our buses with some of the school traffic, include some of the parents. So what we're doing is we're updating the facility. We're adding new bays. We're improving some of the site circulation, so we separate out our regular buses from the school buses and the parents. We're adding restrooms for both the public as well as for the drivers, the operators. We're enhancing the lighting and and doing some landscaping. So it'll give it a fresh start to the transit center and better amenities for passengers.
What's the timeline on this project?
The timeline is the HART board just awarded the contract, and the project will be finished early next fall.
Okay.
Right.
And the next project or program that I want to talk about is really fascinating to me because a lot of folks don't know that there are actually 3,700 bus stops throughout Hillsborough County, and HART for the past couple years has been going route by route improving these stops. Tell me about what these relatively subtle improvements and the big impact they have on our riders.
Our bus stop is one of our most important access points to our transit system. Most of our passengers go to a bus stop to access the bus. Hillsborough County has some challenging conditions. No sidewalks in certain areas, and some of the, especially for the disabled, it makes it challenging to reach the bus stop and then wait for the bus at the stop. So what we're doing on a route-by-route basis is we're evaluating all the bus stops. Are they properly located? Is there too many stops? Are they well placed? Are they at safe locations? And then we're doing some of that critical updating, which is we're adding a pad, a concrete landing pad for that's capable for a wheelchair, a passenger in a wheelchair. We're adding some connections, sidewalk connections, to try to link our bus stop to adjacent sidewalks or facilities. So again, those improvements are important for all our passengers to give them access.
And from what I understand, in August, the HART board approved even installing more shelters throughout the community.
Yes, shelters is another amenity that passengers really, really like to see. Obviously, in our climate, either in the heat or in the the torrential rains, having a shelter when you wait for a bus is really important. We're now updating, we're adding another 55 shelters. We have 545 shelters already on the system. And those shelters, just I wanted to add, HART is doing some of the shelters, but we've also partnered with the private sector, Signal Outdoor Advertising, and they have the contract to build some of those shelters. They put advertising then to pay for that, but they're also doing the maintenance on those shelters, which is an important cost savings for HART.
And as you mentioned, we have more than 500 shelters spread across our 3,700 bus stops. So the ratio there is pretty good. I think it's 1 shelter per 7 stops, and which is almost a double from just a few years ago. So that's excellent news. Another project that we just recently found out about, that HART is the recipient of a $2.3 million federal grant to build a compressed natural gas, or CNG, fueling station. And that's the first step for HART to convert its fleet to CNG. Tell me what that's going to be about.
Well, that's a very exciting project for us. Our fleet, our buses are run on diesel. And diesel, as you know, is expensive as well. This country imports a lot of its diesel, so we're very, very dependent on those relationships. Compressed natural gas is local, it's very abundant in the United States, and it's also a very environmental friendly fuel. It has lower fossil fuel emissions, and the Tampa Bay area has been had challenges with air quality, again, that clean air quality. So this will help us with some of those critical pollutants that are making some of the health challenges, the safety challenges. So again, that compressed natural gas has that environmental benefits, but it's also lower cost. It's about 20% lower cost for that fuel than our regular diesel. So the federal grant will allow us to get the infrastructure in place so we can start then running CNG buses. That'll be a large fueling station that can fuel our buses, as well as it'll be to our garage, our maintenance facilities. In order to work with compressed natural gas, you need some special treatments. You need some safety, some enhanced ventilation and detection. So that's what this money will be used for, is to get us in place both for the fueling and the maintenance facility.
Okay, and as I said, it's the first step. There are plans by other local agencies to build CNG fueling stations. The airport has mentioned it as part of its master plan. Why can't HART use that fueling station?
Well, one of the challenges when you're operating your buses is you need a fueling station that's right on your facility. Otherwise, you're shuttling buses, which is a cost both for the driver and that mileage. So bringing our buses are fueled at our facility, so when we can put a CNG fueling station right on our site, it saves all that extra travel.
And I'm sure there are other cities throughout the country that have successfully converted to CNG or are in the process of doing so.
Yes, compressed natural gas is used by a number of both transit fleets and school bus fleets. California, Texas, the Atlanta area went through this about 11 years, changing from diesel to compressed natural gas.
Okay, great. And before we close out this segment, we went in depth a little bit about some of the major capital investments, but there are a few other projects worth mentioning. The bus toll study with the Expressway Authority. Mary, what's that about?
Okay. And Les mentioned about people being caught in traffic, and we all have some challenges in the Tampa area with congestion. The Tampa Hillsborough Expressway Authority then has received a federal grant to study the concept of special toll lanes. This would be a toll lane, say in rush hour, where we would charge a higher price for motorists, and basically they would get a free flow. There would not be a lot of traffic in that lane, so their travel would be a lot quicker. What the difference in this concept is HART, the transit buses, would be able to use that toll lane for free, providing our passengers with a quick travel. But we're also studying in this analysis, if HART helps pay for the development cost of the toll lane, can then we get a return and use some of that toll revenue to subsidize our operation.
And we're also involved with the long-range planning for the Metropolitan Planning Organization.
The Hillsborough County Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is basically the federal planning organization in this area, has got an important study ongoing right now, looking at transportation needs in the community. What are some of the strategies that might help address the needs, ranging from roads, intersections improvements, and transit? And then how should those projects be funded?
Okay, and the City of Tampa has an urban planning study going on, or just kicked it off, and HART's involved in that too.
Yes, the City of Tampa received a large planning grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to study the downtown, do a master plan, the downtown, some of the surrounding corridors, and then all the way up the Nebraska corridor, looking at land use, looking at development, how can the development be enhanced to make more vibrant communities, but also how can we get some of the land use in place to better serve transit, to make it easier for people to access transit, easier for HART to serve it. So that's an important study for HART to participate in, because it hopefully will help get us gain some of these improvements in place to make our system run better.
Well, thank you both for joining us and telling us what's going on with HART. Mary Chevalier again and Les Weekland, both with HART. And if our customers aren't noticing the improvements now, they certainly will in the future. And thank you for joining us today. To learn more about these projects, visit gohart.org, like us on Facebook, or follow us on Twitter. I'm Marcia Mejia, and remember, HART is driven to serve.